everyone, to the very first episode of Unleashed. I am so excited for you to hear the live broadcast from our launch party tonight at Wide Open Saloon, what I like to call our second-hand campaign headquarters. We're posting this ahead of the event to give you some insights into why I'm launching this next chapter, and so that we can dive right in with our guests tonight. The results 4 months ago, they were a gut punch. It's been tough for all of us to process, I know. But if there's one thing I know how to do for my life's ups and downs, is face adversity down and use it to go bigger, to go bold, to come back and win. We'll figure this out together. So, what the heck happened, Colorado? Let's start with the elephant in the room, pun intended. I want to give you my thoughts on what I think happened in 2022. I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent and then we'll put it behind us and do what we can to move forward. Here's the good news. Almost 1 million voters in Colorado get it. We launched a movement of awakened moms and dads, fired up farmers and ranchers, upset active military and veterans, lied to law enforcement and first responders, and the faith community is waking up. Thank you to all of you that got engaged and joined our movement. You made a big difference. We were able to expose the Democrat and Polis failures, the lies about their policies. Hello, Tabor refund checks. We were able to expose the Colorado media bias, and we saw who in our party isn't really on our side. We educated voters on fentanyl, the crime tsunami, teen suicide, the dangers of high-potency pot, woke school nonsense, and how out of control spending and regulation is at the Capitol right now, right as we speak. Obviously, we have more work to do. Crime is soaring, our kids can't read or write, they're in a mental health crisis. Homeless camps are taking over our cities. I-70 is a parking lot so we can't ski, and gas prices are through the roof. Our state has dramatically changed in the last 5 years under Jared Polis, and people like the destruction so much they voted for more of it. Or did they? A lot of folks just stayed on the sidelines. We have 4.4 million voters registered in Colorado. Only 2.5 million, a little over 50%, voted in the governor's race. That's about 2 million people in Colorado that are registered voters that did not fill out the bubbles on a ballot the Democrats made sure plopped right in your mailbox. And Republican turnout, it was dismal because our voters don't think the elections are fair. It doesn't help when our slimy Secretary of State sends 30,000 illegal immigrants ballots or ballot reminders and takes power away from the county clerks. Or when she shuts down inquiries that could help us trust the process again. Like this example. Kurt Huffman and I tried to do a hand recount in the House district he ran in down in Highlands Ranch, which he lost. It was an R+10 district in red Douglas County. Kurt ran a good race. The numbers didn't make sense as every Republican around him won, and Douglas County, my home county, was way closer than it should have been. We asked for a recount since the margin was a slim 400 or so votes in his race. Jenna Griswold convinced our Republican clerk to shut it down just as it was to start. How's that for instilling our confidence in our election or in our own party? And speaking of slimy, Polis and the George Soros group spent $3 million trying to beat me in the primary by funding ads for my Republican opponent. It may not have taken me out in the primary, but I had to spend every penny we had raised to fight back against it, which left us bruised and almost broke going into the general election. That's just what Polis wanted. He then spent another $30 million in the general election in just 4 months to beat me against our scrappy $2 million we had after the primary. Total spending between the Polis or Soros groups and ourselves was $33 million versus $3 million. Polis did buy himself another term and spent so much on lying about me and lying about his own record. How's that for election integrity? Here's an example of how it works. The Democrats sent trackers out to video everything I said. They did this to a lot of candidates. We saw them at 6 a.m. in Greeley, at a meetup, and 9 p.m. in Durango. They sent them everywhere to track my every move. They would blend into the audience, lay low. One of them is the she-them that launched Antifa in the Springs, Heidi Beadle. Her job was to create a narrative that I was an extreme candidate, anti-kid, a mom on a mission. They'd send their recordings of my video, or the video that they took of me, to the fake online newspapers, Colorado Newsline, Colorado Times Recorder, and they would pop up a story the next day that the jaded mainstream media would use to mimic and reference in their own copycat articles. 9 News, the Denver Post, Colorado Sun, Axios, CPR, Pueblo Chieftain, Durango Herald, all of them were under the thumb of Jared Polis too. They didn't even try to hide it. I would do a 30-minute or 1-hour interview, a deep dive on my policy positions, and they would create an inflammatory headline that drove the story in a crazy direction. Then big tech did their part by constantly putting up roadblocks to let us run our Facebook and Instagram ads. We were put off, delayed, or told to try again almost every time. Submit this form as we tried to run an ad or boost a post. It was crazy. Finally, the Democrats, they work their ground game. They track minute by minute who has not turned in their ballot from the dirty voter rolls and have a massive team that hunts down the Democrat voters down to make sure that no stone is left unturned. In Colorado, you can turn in 10 ballots at a time. It's all about turnout. Then in the last weeks of the race, when voters finally pay attention, the avalanche of $30 million in TV ads, digital ads, large colored flyers hitting every mailbox, not just 1 or 2 or 3, but 4 in a stack, and they were huge. They had short, peppy ads about Polis on the digital platforms, barraging Colorado's YouTube, Netflix, and Hulu, espousing his love of freedom, baby. Yeah, right. Polis couldn't win on his own merit, so he lied and instructed all of his Soros-tied groups to lie too. And oh, did they? They lied about my stance on abortion, about contraception, about marriage to voters. Over and over and over, they told their lies on TV, on flyers, on Hulu, and Netflix. Listen, I am pro-life with exceptions for rape, incest, and health of the mother. I've never changed my position. I promised to sign no bill brought to my desk that would change our abortion law without a vote to the people, a vote back to the vote of the people. That's what I committed to. But did the press cover it? No. The media was complicit. They knew Polis was showering Colorado voters with bold-faced lies about me, and they wouldn't call him out. The TV stations aired the ads, knowing they were false. We told them so. Millions of dollars worth, including Fox News. Dana Perino kept bringing Polis on to fawn about how libertarian he was, but she wouldn't return our calls or put us on air. That was weird, but not when you consider how many millions Polis spent advertising on Fox News. They couldn't beat this mom on a mission without lying, without spending tens of millions in false ads, without an army of complicit media, without tech buddies to block our message on social media, without a Republican district attorney, the same guy who ran for attorney general on our side, who I considered a friend, who refused to pursue the complaint we filed about these ads. Why? Jared had to cheat and lie to win re-election. That can't be good for the ego, and it's certainly not a good sign for his presidential run. Good luck, Jared. So money, the media, big tech, our own party, a feckless group of power players, consultants, and pundits that have caused us to lose for years here, decided that we couldn't win earlier on because I was too conservative, too grassroots for their taste. So they didn't help. In fact, they actively worked against our campaign. This includes many who ran in the primaries. My opponents bailed in the general. Greg and Danielle wouldn't help at all. I spent a lot of time focused on healing the primary wounds instead of working to beat Jared Polis. I'm not saying we didn't make mistakes as a campaign or that I didn't make mistakes as a candidate. I did. There are certainly things I would do differently. And here are 3 assumptions that I made, 3 key assumptions that were wrong. And these are important for us to learn going forward. Number 1, I thought we could outwork the money. I was wrong. Money matters a lot. It buys TV ads, millions of dollars of worth, tens of millions of dollars of worth that easily persuade voters, even if they are lies. It buys establishment GOP business leaders silence for fear of retribution by Polis. It buys the media's loyalty because all those millions spent on advertising with them, they have to pay it back. Now we know we have to do more than work hard. We need money and lots of it. We're gonna fix that. Number 2, I thought organizations that are on our side, like the GOP, both state and, believe me, there were some good people in the counties, but the RNC, LPR, AFP would have the ground game ready to go after the primary. It was not there. We realized quickly we had to build our own, fast. Enter the wonderful hundreds of Gnal gals, the folks who showed up for rallies, our great volunteers. But we couldn't build it big enough, fast enough. Now we know. We're gonna fix that. Number 3, I thought the media would be somewhat neutral, and boy was I wrong. They were relentless, outrageous headlines, misleading questions, didn't put one iota of pressure on the governor. Remember those ad dollars, the millions the Dems and Polis spent? It mattered. These journalists rely on those ad dollars to get paid. It was a force and we couldn't get ahead of it. Now we know better. We're gonna fix that. So my heart for saving Colorado has not changed, and I know yours hasn't either. That's why you're here. That's why you're listening or watching. I decided the most important first step for us is to learn the lessons from the last couple of years, for me to share what I saw, what I know now that we're up against. Some of it is that we're playing a different game than we thought, that there are people on our own side that are playing against us. I've spent the last few months since the election visiting with folks who have flipped blue states red, who figured out tactically how to solve these problems. When you want to tackle big problems, it's always been my priority as a CEO, entrepreneur, to find others who have done what you want to do. They've taught me what we might do differently going forward, based on their success, what's worked, what's actually worked. And it's about the next decade's work, not just the next election. We'll talk about those ideas in the coming episodes. We have a lot of work to do, but don't lose heart. We've got this together. America's been through a lot. Coloradans have been through a lot. We can turn things around. But it starts with sharing some truth. Every week on this show, we'll go deep into these stories and topics I just scratched the surface on. Oh, and by the way, I am unlikely to ever apologize, my friends. That's not how this is going to go. So buckle up. This is going to be fun.